I don't even know why I checked her makeup bag. I wasn't looking for evidence. I just needed aspirin. But what I found cracked something open in me that's still bleeding. My name's Eric. I'm 42, a software engineer in Portland. Suburbs, 2 kids, same lunch every Tuesday. On paper, my wife Callie and I were the definition of stable. We shared Spotify playlists. Laughed at the same dumb commercials. She still called me babe in text. So when I pulled out a folded hotel receipt from the bottom of her bag, dated last Thursday, 3:17 p.m., I wasn't ready. Not for the hotel name I recognized. Not for the signature that wasn't hers. And definitely not for the name listed under the guest room, Brandon Foster. My brother. The thing about quiet betrayals is they never announce themselves. They drip. They hover. They wear your last name and still lie straight to your face. I didn't say anything that night. We had spaghetti. She poured wine. Our daughter Maddie told a story about a field trip and Callie laughed in all the right places. I nodded like everything inside me wasn't slowly unraveling. That night in bed, I watched her sleep. She had a faint freckle near her ear. The kind you don't notice unless you've kissed that spot 1,000 times. It used to make me feel lucky. Now it made me feel stupid. She curled toward me in her sleep, the same way she had for years, and I froze. I didn't want her warmth. I wanted the truth. But I wasn't ready to break the silence yet. The next morning, I left early for work. I sat in my car outside a gas station 2 blocks from our house and stared at the receipt again. Brandon. Of course it was him. The brother who always had the charm. The looks. The ability to walk into any room and make everyone forget you were even there. I thought I was past being jealous of him. But maybe I should have stayed suspicious instead of sentimental. That day I said I was working late. Instead, I drove to the hotel. Front desk clerk didn't care about my ID. She barely looked up when I asked if room 212 was still occupied. She said no. Checked out Friday morning. Then she smiled and added, they left a scarf in the room, though. Real pretty. Lavender silk. Callie's favorite color. A birthday gift from Maddie 2 years ago. I thanked her and walked back to my car with legs that didn't feel like mine. Back home, Callie greeted me at the door. Same kiss. Same smile. Same routine that used to mean something. But now everything felt rehearsed. Like she'd practiced this life while living another. I set the scarf on the dresser that night. She didn't ask where I got it. She didn't even flinch. Just folded it, placed it in the drawer, and said, I thought I lost that. And smiled. I stared at her, searching for something, anything, that felt real. But her eyes slid past me like I was furniture. Like guilt had taught her how to pretend better than love ever had. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the ceiling and counted the lies she never told out loud. And by morning, I wasn't wondering if something had happened. I was wondering how long I'd let it happen without noticing. That was the day I sent Brandon a text. Just 4 words. How long, you coward? He left it on read. And that silence said everything. It's wild how fast the brain turns denial into a coping strategy. I mean, I still made her coffee. Still folded the laundry. Still helped Maddie with her science project like nothing was eating me alive from the inside out. But every smile she gave me felt like it had a price tag. And every second her phone screen face down, I felt like I was being erased in real time. Brandon never answered. Never called. And that, somehow, hurt worse than if he had confessed. Because silence isn't absence, it's control. I started noticing things I used to explain away. Her gym bag started coming home zipped up tighter. Her perfume lingered longer, like she reapplied before walking in. She started humming again, but never our songs. Always something new. Something detached from us. That lavender scarf became my proof. Not in a legal sense, but in my gut. It sat there in the dresser like a coiled lie. Every time I saw it, I felt the outline of everything she wasn't saying. Maddie found me staring at it once. "Are you okay, Dad?" I nodded. But I didn't say yes. One night, I waited for her to fall asleep, then slid her phone from the charger. It was locked, of course. But I didn't need to get in. I just watched the screen. I watched Brandon Foster pop up in her recents. And I watched the time stamp, 1:13 a.m. A call. Not a text. Middle of the night. She didn't even bother deleting the record. The next day, I took a walk during lunch. I passed a little antique store I'd never noticed before. In the window was a rusted tin sign that read, "If it hurts, it means it mattered." I stood there like an idiot, staring at it. Callie used to say that to Maddie when she scraped her knees. It was her comfort phrase. Her way of parenting gently. And now it sounded like a curse. I walked in and bought the damn sign. Took it home. Hung it in the garage. Callie asked where it came from. I said it was on clearance. She laughed and said, "Looks old." I said nothing. That was when I started a private folder on my laptop. I didn't call it proof or evidence. I named it clarity. Every receipt. Every call log. Photos of the scarf, the gym bag, the phone screen. Little things. Because I wasn't trying to trap her. I was trying to stop gaslighting myself. That Friday, she left early for yoga. But I followed her. Quiet. Careful. She didn't go to yoga. She pulled into a parking lot behind a cafe I'd never been to. Brandon was already waiting. And when she stepped out of the car, he kissed her like I didn't exist. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember my hands on the steering wheel, white-knuckled. Every streetlight I passed felt like it was blinking in judgment. And my chest. It wasn't anger. It was shame. Not because they kissed. But because I'd been defending her in my head for weeks, for years. I sat in the driveway for a long time. Didn't go inside. Didn't check my phone. Didn't move. Just stared at the outline of our house like it wasn't mine anymore. Like I was borrowing a life that someone had already broken into. When I finally walked in, Maddie was on the couch. She looked up from her book and smiled. "Hey Dad." I tried to smile back. But it felt like my face didn't know how. Callie got home 20 minutes later. Kissed my cheek like always. Told me she got me a green juice from the smoothie bar. I stared at her hands. Same fingers that had cupped Brandon's jaw in that parking lot. She set the drink down and started talking about her coworker's dog. Something stupid. Something normal. And I couldn't hear her. I just heard the silence between her sentences. The part where love used to live. I waited until after dinner. Maddie had gone to bed. The dishwasher was humming. Callie sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, one leg curled under her like a teenage girl on a sleepover. And I sat across from her, holding my own breath. "Do you love him?" I asked. Her head jerked slightly. "What? You heard me." She blinked. "Is this a joke?" "No," I said. "But our marriage apparently is." She set her phone down slowly. Crossed her arms. And said nothing. That silence again. But this time. I met it. I didn't flinch. I leaned into it. "I saw you too today," I said. Her eyes flickered. "That cafe. The kiss. The lie you told me about yoga." She opened her mouth. Closed it. Then tried again. It's not what you think. I laughed. Quiet and bitter. I think you're sleeping with my brother. She shrugged. It's not like we planned it. That makes it better. I snapped. That it was impulsive betrayal instead of strategic. She rubbed her temples. You don't get it, Eric. You haven't for a long time. Then help me, I said. Explain it. Explain how the woman I married turned into someone who lies with her lips and cheats with her eyes and still acts like nothing's wrong. And that's when she said it. The one sentence I'll never forget. You're safe, Eric. Your routine. He makes me feel alive. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. I just stood up and walked to the guest room. Closed the door. Locked it. But on the nightstand was a photo of me and Brandon from our mom's birthday. And I swear. Even his smile looked guilty. I slept in the guest room for 5 nights. Each night felt like trying to sleep in a stranger's house with my name on the deed. Callie didn't knock. Didn't cry. Didn't even ask if I was okay. She just adjusted. Made extra coffee in the mornings. Laid out Maddie's school things like always. Told her I had a lot on my mind if she asked about the sleeping arrangements. And Maddie stopped asking after day 2. Kids know. Even if they don't know. I went back to my usual routines, on the surface. But inside, I was a hollowed-out version of myself, moving from one obligation to the next, like muscle memory was the only thing holding me together. I started avoiding the house during the day. Worked late. Took longer drives. I even started going to a park near my office during lunch just to sit under this one giant oak tree. The bark was carved with initials. Strangers who believed in permanence. I envied them. One afternoon, while Maddie was at a friend's house and Callie said she'd be running errands, I opened her laptop. She never logged out of anything. Maybe she thought I never would. Inbox, empty. Trash, wiped clean. But the drafts folder. That's where I found it. An unsent email addressed to Brandon. Titled, I can't keep doing this. No body. No words. Just the title. Sitting there like an unfinished wound. I didn't know what it meant, ending things with him. Ending with me. But it didn't matter. She was writing drafts to him. And I was just the background noise. That night I reheated leftovers alone. Sat at the dining table. Looked around at all the framed memories on the wall. Us at Yosemite. Maddie's first day of kindergarten. Our 10th anniversary in Charleston. All of them fake now. Or maybe just incomplete. She walked in later and said, "Oh, you didn't wait?" I didn't answer. She poured herself wine. Watched TV. Laughed at a commercial. And I realized the marriage had already ended. Not with a fight, but with the echo of someone laughing alone on a couch meant for 2. I started packing a small bag that weekend. Not to leave. Just to breathe. I booked an Airbnb an hour out of town. Told Callie I had a work off-site. She nodded, barely looked up. That first night alone, I sat on a creaky old deck with a notebook and a bottle of something cheap. And for the first time in weeks, I wrote something just for me. I wrote down what I'd lost. What I hated. What I missed. And then I wrote a single line in bold, shaky handwriting. She doesn't get to define my worth. The next morning, I checked my phone. One missed call. From Brandon. And a voicemail. His voice, low and urgent. We need to talk, Eric, before she does. I didn't call him back right away. I listened to that voicemail 5 times on the deck, pacing. He sounded nervous. Like someone who knew the ground beneath him was about to collapse. And wasn't sure which direction to run. I finally texted him. Tomorrow. Noon. The Overlook off 26. It was the place we used to go as kids. Right before Mom's cancer got bad. Back when we still trusted each other. When I got there, Brandon was already leaning against the railing. Sunglasses. Coffee cup. Like this was some casual check-in, not a reckoning. He looked older than I remembered. Tired, maybe. Or just cracked. "Eric," he said, almost like he was relieved. I didn't respond. Just waited. He took off his sunglasses. "I know. You hate me." "That's not strong enough," I said. He looked down at the trees, the wide hills stretching below us. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "You mean you didn't mean to get caught?" He winced. "It started, before the holidays. I didn't plan it. I didn't even like her like that at first. I laughed once, sharp and dry. You expect me to feel better because it took time for you to betray me?" "No," he said. "I expect nothing. I know it's over." She ended it. That caught me. She ended it? He nodded. "Last week. She said she was going to try and fix things with you." I stared at him. "She wrote a draft," I said. He looked confused. "What?" I shook my head. "Nothing. Doesn't matter." We stood there for a long moment. The wind was louder than either of us. "I didn't come here for closure," I said finally. "I came to make sure you knew, you don't come near me, or my daughter, ever again." His jaw clenched. "I get it. No, Brandon. You don't. You took family and turned it into fallout. You turned my home into a stage for your selfishness. You don't get to walk away pretending this was some tragic love story." He didn't speak. I turned to leave. "Eric," he said quietly. "She said you didn't see her. That you hadn't, in years." I froze. Then I turned back, looked him in the eye, and said, "She was right. But that doesn't make you less wrong." I left him there, staring at the horizon like it could forgive him. That night, when I got back home, Callie was waiting in the kitchen. "Can we talk?" she asked. I nodded, but didn't sit. "I ended it," she said, her voice low. "With him. For good." "I know," I said. She blinked. "You talked to him?" "I listened," I said. That was enough. She looked at me, really looked. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't," I said. "Just sign these." I pulled the envelope from my jacket. The separation agreement. Clean. Precise. No drama. No fight. She stared at it like it was a weapon. Or maybe a mirror. "I'll look it over," she whispered. "Do that," I said. I walked past her, up the stairs. Stopped at Maddie's door. She was asleep, one leg kicked off the blanket. I stood there in the quiet, listening to her breathe. Promising myself I wouldn't let this break her, too. The next morning, the agreement was still unsigned. But taped to the fridge was a sticky note in her handwriting. "You're not blameless either." I stared at that sticky note for a full minute. Didn't touch it. Didn't move. Just read the words over and over like they might rearrange themselves into something less petty, less cowardly, less her. "You're not blameless either." That's the hill she wanted to die on. After months of lies, secret meetups, motel receipts, and lavender-scented guilt. She wanted to level the field with a post-it. I peeled it off and dropped it in the trash without a sound. That day, I went into work and cleared my calendar. Not because I couldn't function, but because I was done pretending everything was normal. The hardest part wasn't what she did. It was realizing how long I'd been conditioning myself to minimize pain just to keep the peace. I wasn't a husband. I was a stabilizer. A quiet fixer. An emotional shock absorber for someone who hadn't looked at me with real affection in years. And the fallout didn't stop at her. Texts from her sister. "Callie's not doing well. She says you're being cruel." A DM from Brandon's old college friend. "I know what he did was wrong, but airing it like that? Low." Even my own father called, voice stiff and disappointed. "You two always seemed solid. What happened?" I wanted to scream. But instead, I sat in the car outside a grocery store and watched families walk in and out like they weren't carrying invisible shrapnel too. Back home, Maddie was in her room, painting. She didn't ask about the note. She didn't ask where Mom was. She just looked up and said, "Can we get Chinese tonight?" I nodded. We ate in the living room, curtains between us, some comedy playing low on the TV. I wasn't hungry, but I forced myself to chew. Not for me. For her. Later, while she showered, I found myself standing in the hallway, staring at the closed master bedroom door. The last time I stepped inside, I'd still been a husband. Now I was just a witness. I opened the door slowly. Same bed. Same throw pillows. Same scent. Her side of the dresser still cluttered with makeup trays and hairbands and that damn bottle of expensive perfume she said was too special to wear often. I pulled open the top drawer. Inside, tucked beneath a scarf, was a photo strip. Them. Her and Brandon. 4 frames of forced fun, smiling, kissing, goofy face, forehead to forehead. On the back, in her handwriting. "Wish this was easier." That was when it hit me. Not just the betrayal. But how disposable she made it all seem. Like our life was an inconvenience. Like Maddie and I were something she was trying to emotionally outsource. I packed a second bag that night. Not because I was leaving. But because I was done making her comfortable. The next morning, I moved into the guest room permanently. Cleared space for my clothes. Took my books off our shared shelf. Hung the old antique sign, "If it hurts, it means it mattered," above the door. I didn't tell her. I just transitioned. One quiet act at a time. That night, I found another note. Taped to the guest room mirror. "Let me explain. Please. Before court." It wasn't signed. But I didn't need her name to know the handwriting. I just didn't know whether to rip it. Or read it. I didn't read the note. I stared at it for a while, the slanted loops of her handwriting, the soft inked desperation, and then I peeled it off the mirror and folded it twice, quietly, like I was tucking away a ghost. Not because I forgave her. But because I didn't need her version of the truth anymore. I already lived through mine. The next few days were quiet. She tiptoed around the house like a tenant. Didn't ask about the note. Didn't ask if I was staying or going. She just existed beside me, like a shadow I hadn't turned the light on yet. Maddie stayed soft through it all. She kept her distance, but not coldly. She knew the air had shifted, that rooms felt heavier, footsteps quieter, laughter rarer. She didn't ask for details. She didn't need to. One afternoon, she left a sticky note of her own on my desk. A heart drawn in blue marker. No words. I kept that one. A few days later, the court date was set. She didn't contest anything. Didn't fight over the house. Didn't ask for custody. She just signed the papers with the same indifference she once used to order coffee. When the judge stamped everything final, I didn't feel victorious. I felt, still. Like silence had weighed again, not dread, but peace. That evening, after Maddie went to bed, Callie knocked on the guest room door for the first time in weeks. She didn't open it. She just said, "Through the door." I hope you find someone who makes you feel seen. I almost laughed. Because all I could think was that someone was always supposed to be you. But I didn't say anything. Not then. Not ever. A week later, she moved out. No scene. No crying. No final appeal to shared history. Just Alexis backing down the driveway. And then silence. Real silence. Not the kind that screams. The kind that finally exhales. The house felt different within hours. Lighter. More grounded. Even the walls felt warmer. I made Maddie her favorite breakfast the next morning, blueberry pancakes with too much syrup. She smiled for the first time in weeks. Is she coming back? She asked. I shook my head gently. No, sweetie. She's not. She looked at her plate and nodded. Then she whispered, good. I swallowed the lump in my throat and kissed the top of her head. We ate in quiet, and for once, it wasn't sad. It was steady. Weeks passed. Julia, Brandon's ex, reached out unexpectedly. Said she was sorry for everything. Said she kicked him out too. We talked once, briefly, at a coffee shop. Not about them. About books. About weather. About raising girls. She said, you're calmer than I expected. I said, that's what healing sounds like. Maddie and I painted her room a new color that weekend. Mint green. She said it made the walls feel like breathing. That night, while brushing her teeth, she asked, are you happy now? I thought about it. Not about revenge. Not about what I lost. Just the stillness, the clarity, the freedom. I'm getting there, I said. And for the first time, I believed it. I never read her last note. Because I didn't need her words to let go. Some stories don't end with a bang. They end when the silence finally feels safe again. And mine did.